water reservoir. Oh, okay. You treat that water when you're very thin.
Yeah. We've got Michael Deal here, general manager of the Jerritt Canyon mine. We're standing in the bottom of the pit right now, and you can see all the terraces, and then what happens after you get to the end of the bottom pit in the life of mine, you go underground. And we have the trucks behind us moving the ore around. But Michael, I want to ask you, about the ore in Jerritt Canyon. You have your oxides first, right? Then you've got your refractory ore and double refractory ore. Okay. And can you see that in the walls there, the oxides?
Yeah, so you can see the oxides are typically quite a bit lighter.
Yeah.
And then it quickly transitions into that dark black material. That black is more of the double refractory ore.
Yeah.
So you've got high sulfide, high organic carbon in that material.
Okay, can you see a difference between the single and the double?
You can't really see the difference so much in this style deposit because the darkness of the color really hides whether it's sulfide or organic carbon.
Okay.
So
how do you determine that?
You basically do what's called a LECO, so it's an assay of the ore.
Yep.
And you can get the characteristics of carbon and sulfur.
Okay.
So it's an analytical method.
So when the ore is trucked in back into the mill,
then
you're testing it,
exactly.
then you're analyzing it.
Exactly.
Is it pretty consistent or does it vary a lot?
There's quite a bit of variability, and so the key for us is to understand the variability to get our right blends.
Okay.
So we're measuring it underground, we're measuring it at the surface, we're measuring it ahead of the plant. So
okay.
Constant evolution of it.
Okay. This smaller one's a mine truck. You can see it's lower profile, so it's able to fit in the portal, and it carries the ore from the faces outside the mine, and then they dump it back down there. So these trucks are the ones that actually go in the mine. And then the bigger trucks are the ones that pick up the ore and they bring it back to the mill. And then you can see all the ore right here. You can see the blue ribbon, you can see the red ribbon. They take assays of the ore. Obviously they want the higher grade, the better. The blue and the red is the higher grade stuff. So that is what they're loading up onto the larger trucks to bring back to the mill. And then there's some yellow ribbons down there, and the yellow ribbons is lower grade stuff that they kind of just, when they're running low on ore, they'll run that later because it's lower grade. They'd rather run the higher grade stuff first. And you see the dark color, that's double refractory. It's sulfur that's in the rocks that makes it black. That's the sulfides ore that Nevada is known for in Jerritt Canyon. That needs the roaster process to unlock the gold from the sulfides and the carbon. And then here's some of the ore right here. It's dark, refractory, double refractory ore. Some gold mines, it's epithermal, which means it's narrow vein, but it's much higher grade. So you gotta follow the veins out, and you can actually see some of the gold in the epithermal deposits, but these deposits are usually lower grade. You can't actually see any gold in it, which is why, they didn't discover gold in Nevada until the 60s and 70s with Newmont and Barrick. But they process it and they're able to extract the small amounts of gold from the refractory ore, make it profitable. So the underground trucks are 20 tons, and then the larger trucks are what, 70 tons?
They're 100 tons.
They're 100 tons.
And they take it to the mill. But
yep.
Each truckload that they take is approximately 15 to 17 ounces of gold in that.
17 ounces in that 100-ton truck.
Right, so it's equivalent to roughly $30,000 in revenue per truck.
Okay. And these guys.
And they make 20 to 25 trips every day to the mill.
The big trucks make 20. Yeah, is there more than one big truck?
We have 4.
And each of those does that many trips?
Well, in total. So each one would do 6 or 7.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they work like this all day long?
Yeah.
Yep, bringing the ore out and bringing it back to the mill.
Yep.
Yeah, all right, awesome, thanks. So the ore comes down from the mine in the 100-ton trucks. It gets dropped in right there into the crusher. They crush the big rocks and the little rocks. Gets brought up the conveyor, and then it gets dropped into the another crusher. Crushes it into smaller rocks. That right there is a heater. They heat the ore to 500 degrees, and that's part of the heater too. Because if you put wet ore into the roaster, it'll spark. It'll spontaneously combust. So they heat it up to 500 degrees to get the moisture out. And then they don't want to heat it up too much there because they want to keep the cyanide in there. They want to capture all the cyanide during the roasting process because it's pretty, noxious sort of contaminant. And then they have the ball mill. The ball mill's inside the plant there. The ball mill will take the smaller rocks that are, less than an inch, and then crush it up to a fine powder, which they then run through the roaster.
Yeah, so essentially what we have to do is the roaster itself is designed with 2 stages.
Yeah.
Fluidized bed.
Yeah.
The first stage was burning off the sulfide material, exposing the gold.
Hey, what about the M&Ms?
Yeah,
Explain the M&Ms.
All right, so the double refractory means that there's 2 components of the ore itself that we have to address before we can leach the gold out. So the best analogy is a peanut M&M. So the outside shell of the M&M is basically like the sulfide. So once you get out of that layer, you then have to get rid of the chocolate layer before you can get to the M&M, or the peanut itself, which is the gold. So that's basically what we're doing in the roasting process, is we're removing that shell of the M&M. That's our sulfides, burning off the chocolate, and then we can then leach the peanuts and go to the dried gold.
Yep. And it's a fine balance, right, with the whole process.
Yeah, so the key for us is blending. So the roaster itself runs anywhere between 1,000 and 1,250 degrees, and we have to blend at the front of the process to make sure that it's got enough heat, because we need the heat to burn off the sulfide and the carbon and the organic carbon, or else our recovery will suffer. So finding that right balance of sulfide and organic is the critical piece to keep the roaster hot and get our recovery.
Yeah, okay, excellent. And the recoveries have been pretty good recently.
Yeah, so we run about 86% recovery.
Yeah.
It's dependent on head grade, but we've identified several opportunities for us to keep optimizing recovery.
All right, and then Michael is from Nevada Gold, the big joint venture between Newmont and Barrick right down the road, and First Majestic was able to, poach him. Michael likes the entrepreneurial aspect of First Majestic, being able to contribute right to the bottom line. So Michael came over and you ended up bringing your whole team, right?
Yeah, we've got a whole new management team. We've got very excited about that group. They've got a ton of experience in roasting business here in Northern Nevada, and we're excited about what this team can bring to Jerritt Canyon.
Yeah, that's good, because Jerritt Canyon previously was owned by private owners that didn't put a lot of capital into the project for years. Now you get First Majestic with deeper projects that, if Michael has an idea that he wants to get implemented to improve the mill, they'll implement it the next day versus a whole bureaucratic process or, no process at all. So things are gonna, start moving forward soon here, which is great. One of the reasons why Jerritt Canyon is unique, right? Because it has this huge roaster. And there aren't many in the world. There's like 4 or 5, and 3 of them are here in Nevada.
There's 3 in Nevada, so Nevada Gold Mines has 2.
Yeah.
We have 1. But they're critical in this region because of the organic carbon that's prevalent in Carlin Trend.
Okay. We were talking last night, about the roaster versus the autoclave, right?
Yeah.
And the difference between the 2?
Yeah, so typically you'll run an autoclave and you have single refractory ore. So you just have that sulfide component where you have to unlock the sulfides and then you can leach the gold. When you have the double refractory, you need extra temperature. So an autoclave will operate at lower temperatures but high pressure, and the roaster is going to operate between 1,000 and 1,250 degrees Fahrenheit because you need to burn that organic carbon, and the autoclave can't get hot enough to do that. Don't
deposits go through different stages, right? It goes from oxide to the single refractory was this ever single refractory at Jerritt Canyon?
Jerritt's never been single refractory. So it was the first roaster built in the region because it was identified early on that it doesn't have quite the geology here isn't quite as straightforward where you have the oxide, the single refractory,
right?
Like some of the other areas in the region, some of the other mines in the region. And so that's why the roaster was built early on, is to capture that. The depth of oxide is pretty small here, and then it gets quickly into that double refractory section.
Yeah, okay.
That's a geology driven.
And then the guy who invented this roaster?
So the company's called Dor Oliver that designed it.
Right.
Freeport McMoran design.
Right.
And it's the same as the Gold Strike roaster.
Now they licensed the technology, right?
Yeah, they
patented it?
patent on it, and when Gold Strike built the roaster, they had to pay Freeport McMoran for the patent.
Okay. Michael, so all the ore goes through the roaster, all the impurities are taken out, the concentrate gets drenched with water, it goes into the thickener, right? And then it settles down the bottom, you draw it from the thickener, then
We take that, so thickened solids,
Yep.
and we pump it over to our CIL circuit.
What's in those solids? What is that?
So that's the calcine. It's got the gold
Yeah.
still left. It's the solids that are out of the roasting
Okay.
process. So we've removed as much of the sulfide and organic as we can.
Yep.
There's still solid ore left. But what we've done is we've exposed those surfaces so now that the cyanide can attack it and we can recover it. So that's what we do here. We pump it over. We pump it into a series of tanks in the carbon leach circuit. We add cyanide, lime to get the pH up so we don't off-gas cyanide. And then within the system there's carbon, like activated carbon.
Yep.
And we, the gold goes into solution, kind of like into salt into water. It absorbs onto the carbon like a Brita water filter would absorb metals. We then extract the gold off of the carbon through a stripping circuit. We take that stripped circuit, put it through a sludge, and then we pour the sludge as our gold and silver.
And the sludge goes into the gold room, and that's where you pour in the gold?
Exactly.
How much of that sludge is waste, and how much of it is gold?
So we'll get about 500 pounds, which will equate to a couple thousand ounces of gold.
Oh, wow.
So it's generally about 5 to 10 ounces per pound.
Okay.
Of
So it's like
sludge.
50% gold and 50% sludge? Or?
The ratio by weight is about like 15%.
15%
Yeah.
sludge?
Uh-huh.
All right, and then you just burn that off.
We burn that off.
And then you pour the bar.
Pour the bars.
Yeah, all right, good, which we're going to see right now. Hey, this is Garrett Goggin, Silver Stock Analyst. We're here today at Jerritt Canyon in Elko, Nevada, and Keith Neumeyer, CEO of First Majestic Silver, joins us. So, Keith, I've been following you guys for many years. I've seen you make the transition from, running 6, 7 mines, and it was back when the silver market wasn't great, and it was tough managing the profitability. Now you've got 3 strong operations. You just purchased Jerritt Canyon, and then your acquisitions in the past, right? With Silvercrest Mining for Santa Elena for like 130 mil in 2015, and that was a good acquisition because you could see the free cash flow. Like you were making $30 million a year, so the payback was 5 years. It was quick. Yeah. And then you could see the same thing with San Dimas that you bought out of bankruptcy from Primero, and you paid what for that? You paid about
330.
Yeah, 300 mil for that. But now you're stepping up even further. Now you're paying 500 mil for this operation, the gold operation. So I'm wondering, you say that it checked almost all the boxes except for the silver. It's a gold operation. So what attracted you to this asset?
Well, for first thing, I think we're not in the same market as we were back in 2015. We picked up Silvercrest right at the bottom of the market.
Oh yeah.
It was a unique acquisition. Mm-hmm. San Dimas, came to us as you said, another unique acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
We were the logical buyers for that asset, because of our footprint in Mexico, our footprint in Durango.
Yep.
So it, should have been in our portfolio and should have been there much earlier than it was actually. But nevertheless, we finally were able to add that. This asset, came to light really mid last year, and then I started talking to Eric Sprott about it, and it just made a ton of sense. You're right, it did not check the silver box, and we did, pay conceivable, quite a lot of money for it.
Right.
But do we think we're going to make those dollars back? Absolutely. When we looked at this asset, of course, it didn't have the silver, but it's a doré producer. Yep. So we now have 4 mines in our portfolio that all are producing doré bars.
Yep.
The 7 mines that you referred to in Mexico, 4 of them were were concentrate producers, and producing concentrates is a nightmare. And I'm so happy not to be in the concentrate business because you don't make money.
The margins are lower.
Yeah, you don't make money selling that.
Yeah.
All the money's in the silver or the gold. So it's nice to not have those assets in our portfolio.
Right.
This asset here, for what we paid for it,
Yep.
we think we can double the production.
Okay.
And that may sound interesting to some because it was owned by a private company.
Yes.
So there's really been no visibility from the street on
Right.
this asset for 6 years.
Right.
And the company that owned it prior to that owned it right as the market was crashing.
Yep.
In 2015 they went bankrupt right at the
Yep.
bottom of the market. I wish I was around back then because I would
Snatched it up.
maybe we would have picked it up back then. But Eric Spross did a fantastic job in de-risking the asset for us. He took it out of bankruptcy. He spent over $100 million, on the environmental side of the business, building the water treatment plant.
Yep.
Did you see that today?
We didn't see the water
You didn't
treatment
get a
plant.
chance to see it
Yeah.
in time. Well, it's a pretty state-of-the-art facility,
Right.
That they built, and so we took over this asset as a clean asset.
Yep.
All it needs is development and exploration. So we think life of mine can be doubled or tripled.
Okay.
We think production can be doubled
Okay.
over the next couple of years. It's not going to happen tomorrow.
Okay.
But our objective is by 2024.
Okay. And I was impressed. All these companies, they're all built by people, right? So I was impressed with the group of people that you already have on board.
Yeah.
And they like working with First Majestic because you're a smaller company. If Michael wants to improve something, makes a phone call, you're going to get it done tomorrow. Versus a large bureaucratic organization where all the red tape takes months.
Sure.
And then you're able to come here and spend a little bit more money. You immediately boosted up the workers IRA plan, right, from 2% to 5%. So everyone seems to be happy working for you.
And that's what we try to do at First Majestic is we try to really make a family environment.
Right.
I take that really seriously. The
Yeah.
relationship we have with our workers is super important
Okay.
because it's all on them. Me in Vancouver, what am I going to do? And it really takes the people on the ground here and in Mexico that really spend the day to day.
Right.
If they don't have that connection with senior management, then things just get overlooked and things disappear.
Yeah.
Look at Primero, for example.
Right.
The San Dimas, that was managed out of Canada.
Yes.
This asset was managed out of Canada.
Yes.
And you just can't run operations like that. You need to have good quality skill set on the ground operating these things.
Correct. You're the people on the ground and making decisions versus the suits up in the office with a spreadsheet.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, good. All right. Good luck. It was great going on the tour today, and it's an impressive operation, and I'm sure you'll be able to cost down and start making some
Well,
money.
that's the focus, right?
Yeah.
Because we know the costs are a little bit high.
Right.
We came in this with our eyes open,
Yeah.
knowing that we could turn this thing around. And
Yeah.
if you look at the last 20 years or last 19 years, that's why this 19-year-old company now, we've been great at turning assets around.
Yes.
You go back and look at every single acquisition we've done,
Yeah.
we turn them all around. And it's whether it's cost, whether it's recoveries, whether it's production, lack of resources, we've been able to turn around every asset we've ever bought.
Right.
And we're going to turn this one around.
Yeah. Good. Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Well, good. Thanks for coming. Really
Yep.
appreciate it.
It was fun.